I'm grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for Mike for extending the invitation. And, Mike, I mentioned to him the first time that I met him that he had influenced me. And I don't know how many of you have ever read Mike's book, Glorious Accidents. Maybe makes everybody buy it for a textbook. But I read that at the tail end of graduating. And I won't say what year that was, but that made a big impact on me. That is full of stories of entrepreneurs and their journey. And I probably, Mike, I really probably read that 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I am. And I'm the guy that put all the Amazon reviews up there for you. So I think Mike, and it's been just a great experience meeting with some of the students I had the opportunity in dinner, and my host, Jacqueline. Appreciate you guys. As mentioned, Nicole and I have 6 kids, and there is no irony between having 6 kids and being in the baby industry, okay? I literally saw it as product development. But where I've got 3 of my kids here, raise your hands. I've actually grown to love those 3. The other 3 I'm still working on. But anyways, I'm grateful for my family, and I can't go on without thanking my wife Nicole, and she has been. If I get emotional, just really, I'm probably. How many of you remember Larry H. Miller? I've got the same problem he does, whatever that. I don't have diabetes, but I do have the emotional problem that he has. But she has been. I mean, she's the real hero. And actually, a great series would be having the spouse. She's shaking her head no. The spouses of entrepreneurs speak. That'd be the real revealing side of things. So I thank my wife, Nicole, as well. And I've never had a forum which I could actually use this context, but I've thought about it so many times in my life that there are really 2 major things that have caused me to be an entrepreneur. And one of those is the Boy Scouts of America, okay? And let me tell you why. I did not get an Eagle Scout, and I grew up in Utah, and I was convinced that if you didn't get an Eagle Scout, you wouldn't be able to put it on your resume, and you wouldn't get a job. And number 2 is I owe a lot to the Utah State ticket office, the parking office, parking tickets, because I also graduated with so many parking tickets that I would have had to rob a bank in order to pay them off in order to get a copy of my transcripts. And so as a result of that, I decided it was probably better off that I went into business for myself because nobody would hire me. But I want to spend some time tonight. I'm honored to be here. I look at each one of you. There's some familiar faces, but I just absolutely love your stage. I don't think I've ever grown out of it. I know, by physical age I have, but I've continued my whole career to work around kids your age. You're awesome. So I want to spend some time talking about 6 key principles that I've learned through my experiences of some dynamic business opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to be part of. But before we kick off and start talking about those principles, my good friend Orlando, who's helping me out, is going to show just a quick video. This video just gives you a good flavor for the brand of J.J. Cole, the people who are behind it, and a few of the products. Just a great brand and a great company. Want to tell you a little bit about the history of how I got started, and that will allow us to reveal one of those principles. I had a lot in common with you guys when I started the company. I started the company at age 24, my senior year in college here at Utah State University. Okay, so here I am, senior year, getting close to graduation. My wife and I decided to be a little bit dangerous and have a child, so we throw that into the mix. And going through that process, we were given a lot of different baby shower gifts. And one of those products in particular, I don't know if you noticed in the video, and actually go back 2 slides. Yeah, right at the top, we were given this product. Somebody had already developed it, concepted it. It's called the Bundle Me. I don't think anything of it other than this is awesome. This is one less product that poor college students have to buy. And we get that product given to us. We have Hannah and our oldest child, and we're out using this product, okay? We're walking around every day using it. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, this is really convenient. I mean, this is a great product. It really solves a problem. This is so easy to use. Well, also in the process of using it, other people take notice of it, and I'm sure there are people who had children and been through the process of parenting and some of the hassles we deal with in moving our kids on the go, and they start stopping us and asking for the 1-800 number, or asking us where we got it. We really didn't know. Somebody had given it to us, and so I was constantly turning over. I'd noticed there was a 1-800 number on the product, and I'm giving out the 1-800 number and saying, yeah, call that number. That's all I can offer. And as a student, I constantly went through this process of looking at ideas, looking at businesses. My wife can attest. I was always in the classifieds. I was mentioning to some of the other students. I mean, I was terrible. I'd look at lawn mowing businesses. I think I called a porta potty business at one point. I was looking for literally just opportunities, and all of a sudden, here's this product. It just, all of a sudden the light goes on that I'm like, here's a product that's pretty interesting. It solves a problem, and I've had a lot of products in my life that I thought were really cool, but I had never had a product that people stopped me and asked me where I got it, like I did with this product. And so I all of a sudden realize, wow, there's something to this. And I call my dad, who I just value as a mentor and just has had a great business experience himself. And I thought, I'm gonna run this by him, which I had done on about every other product or business idea, and obviously they hadn't gone anywhere. So my dad had added his value in letting me know that maybe that wasn't the right pursuit. So anyways, I call him and I say, hey, I know you've seen this product. We're using it. It's such a why didn't I think of it type product. What do you think? And he said, yeah, I agree with you. What a great product. I said, so if I make a phone call, that's great. If I make a phone call, will you back me? Will you put something into this? Because at that point, I had nothing. I had nothing other than I was willing to put in a little bit of time, and I needed somebody who was willing to put in some capital and had a little more experience. So I want to share with you one thing before I talk about making that call. I absolutely love this statement right here, and this is, and I might butcher his name, Cus D'Amato, who was the trainer of Mike Tyson. Okay, same guy who bit off somebody else's ear. Okay, but this is awesome, and this is Cus D'Amato speaking to Mike Tyson. He says, "You know the difference between a hero and a coward, Mike? Well, there is no difference between a hero and a coward in what they feel. It's what they do that makes them different. The hero and coward feel exactly the same, but you have to have the discipline to do what a hero does and keep yourself from doing what a coward does. So, in business and in life, we all feel fear. I think, and I hope there hasn't been an entrepreneur who's walked in here and said they were fearless, because I honestly believe they're a liar. Okay, and I appreciate their psychology. That's great psychology to tell yourself you're fearless. But we all experience fear. It's an emotion we experience, but it's what we do with the fear. It's whether we cave to that or we rise to the occasion and we do what heroes do, right? And I'm not calling myself a hero, but it sounds like that's where I'm headed. But I made the call. I remember making the call from my basement apartment on my cordless phone, and I think I said something like, I'm Jeremy White from White Enterprises. We're an investment company. I threw it out there. I didn't know what to say. But I called and I said, hey, you've got a great product. We think we could help you take it to the next step. Anyway, with all my experience, we can get you there. But anyways, she said yes. She said, absolutely, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have a conversation. And so I'm not going to get into years. A long time ago, in April, so we're almost on an anniversary, signed a deal with this individual to take over this product. So we've got it, when we have these opportunities in life, whether it's identifying a product, in my case, I identified a product, or we identify an opportunity, you got to flex your muscles just a little bit and step into the ring. You got to be willing to take that risk and overcome that. Can you go back just for a second? I'm sorry, I keep looking at you and I'm throwing you off. And then I have this little code thing going on and it's not going on. The second, it's my fault, because I kind of like Orlando, so I look over at him to make me feel comfortable, and he switches the slide. All right. So, opportunities abound. Lesson number 1. Okay? Lesson number 1. Opportunities abound. They're all around us. We got to open our eyes. We got to see them, right? Then we've got to identify. Then we got to overcome ourselves, and we seize them. Okay. So I want to talk about, here I end up with this just cool, innovative product, okay? I'm just thrilled. I've got this product, and I've got to figure out how I'm successful with it. So I want to talk about the principle of building the team. Initially, right out of the gates, I just recognized one thing that was really important to me, and that was I didn't want to do it alone. There's a choice, right? I mean, we have sole proprietors. We have those who want to just call the shots, do it their way, and don't want anybody to mess with that. I didn't feel that way. I wanted to take the journey with others. I love the quote by Michael Jordan, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. And that's the way I felt about things. If I'm going to take this journey, I want to take it with others. If I'm going to take the journey to the top, I want to bring others to the top with me. A true principle in being an entrepreneur, and I just believe this through and through, you simply get the ball rolling. If we think of this as a sport and it's soccer, I get the ball onto the field, and then as crucial as anything is the team that I put on that field to go chase that down with me. One of the most important things that you have, too, is the role of assessing and assembling that talent. That's just absolutely crucial. Is I've got to have the ability to have some kind of determination for the type of talent that I want, right? I look back, and one of the most important things I felt like I ever did was actually in the interviewing process. And if I brought somebody in for an interview outside of maybe it was a technical skill that we needed. It was an IT person or a graphic designer. I mean, obviously they had to have the skill set, but beyond that, I can tell you, I was looking at their character. I was looking at the type of things that they had developed prior in life, the type of things your parents or your mentors or those individuals that you value have installed in you, because I felt like that, at the end of the day, determined whether you were willing to go to the level of battle that I was. And I wanted you to go to that level. I wanted the type of individuals that, if I was running a pace, no matter how tired you were, you couldn't help but stay to the side of me. You would just stay there because it's just who you are. You weren't going to back down from the fight. You were going to make that happen. Integrity was such a crucial thing. I wanted people that I could absolutely trust. The other thing that was so important to me in the interviewing and in the building process was, and I used to ask this question all the time, when I would interview somebody, I would say something like, "Have you looked at our website?" Why do you think I had asked that question? I wanted to know if they'd done any homework, if this job meant something to them. Because in my mind, if you were just there to get a job and you just wanted a job, you were not the right fit for us. I wasn't looking for somebody to just fill a job. I was looking for somebody who wanted to have a kick-butt experience, who wanted to be on the team, who was passionate about it, who wanted to be there. So crucial, too, for me was picking people with different strengths. One thing, and I think it's a natural inclination, we want to pick our friends, want to pick, our buddies. We're going to start a company, and it just makes sense. The executive committee's your 4 best friends, right? That we all have VP status, and we go build a business. But so crucial to your success is building people who are different than you, or building your team around people who are different than you. Having that diversity of strength and discipline is absolutely crucial. The other thing that I recognized was so crucial and that I just strived to have was partners. I mentioned I brought partners into the business. I had just incredible partners. Eric Elison. How many have had classes from Eric Elison here? Anybody? Gosh, he acts like he teaches the whole university up here, and I think 2 people raised their hands. Eric's not. Eric, are you here? Anyways, Eric Elison was a valued partner. Brody Holbrook. I don't know. Some of you may have had the opportunity to interact with Brody. My dad, who was a partner, and some other valuable, loyal partners, Matt Huff. I mean, these were the type of individuals that I trusted with my life. I mean, literally, and to this day, I'd call them in a heartbeat, and they would be there in a heartbeat. So, I just tell you, when you look at, as you're starting a business, and you look at partners, I mean, treat it like you would a spouse, okay? Really, that's just absolutely so crucial. I eliminated a bunch of problems over the years because of that fairness and relationship. And then the other thing that I would just make mention, so crucial to develop mentors. The people who can help you accelerate the pace and move a little bit further and faster than you can on your own. And that means going out and find people specifically in the areas of your interest where you want to launch a business that have had some experience there before. And as you do that, they save you from you're still going to make wrong turns. It just happens. But they'll help eliminate some of those. And there's a lot of value in that. So I can't tell you, I can't stress enough, we need to move on, just how crucial that team building is and how important that is. And I really look back from a personal standpoint. In my career, I can tell you point blank above all other things I value from the experience, it's been the people that I've worked with. Put that experience above making money. It's the people and great things will happen. So the lesson, you want to have a great journey through life, not just business. So surround yourself with extraordinary people. Okay. So I want to talk about the objective, selling the objective, setting the objective, and the focus that takes. You know, from day one, just to give you a little bit of background, the very first morning that I started my business, I had a stack of business cards that were handed to me from the lady who had that product from a previous trade show. And I got up first thing in the morning, and I remember I was so sick to my stomach, nervous. I was just scared to death. I remember sitting on this couch that we stole from Nicole's parents when we got married, the couch in the living room, and just picking up the phone and starting to make calls. It was one of those things that I recognized up front that nobody was going to call me. I had to start making those calls, and that we had to go get it. I recognized also up front that we had to stand out, we had to be different. I mean, that we just absolutely had to do things different. So when we started sending samples, we weren't just sending brochures. I mean, I went to the extreme. I was dropping money on, because remember, this was a new product. People didn't know about it. I felt like I had to show you what it was. I was buying car seats. I was sticking it in car seats. I mean, I was doing everything I could to send this message of here's this innovative product so they would understand and try to get their attention. I remember, again, talk about detail. The first trade show, we had somebody build a trade show booth for us. You know, we kind of concepted the design, and we have them build it. We get it back, and I remember having a pit in my stomach thinking, this is not what we envisioned. But instead of accepting it, what we did, we took it back to our little warehouse space. We flipped on the car lights in the parking lot, and we spent all night reworking that booth so that it would look like what we wanted it to. So you have two options: you fight or you flight, right? And you got to fight through some of these things, because I can tell you right now, there's going to be times where flight sounds better than fight. That you just wish there was a place you could run and hide. But you push through and you find out that things work out. The other thing that I remember really well on the objective side of things starting out is, as an entrepreneur, you wear so many hats. I mean, I remember I was invoicing, I was shipping, and I was making sales calls. And we determined early on that sales just had to be paramount. We had to hit a certain number every day. And so we learned to become really effective, because since we were doing everything, including making the sales calls, we had a certain number we had to hit every day. And actually it was really cool, because we had little headsets that we put on. We thought we were legit. We were Jerry Maguire making deals. But we'd put those on, and we knew that we really didn't have 2 hours, 3 hours to make calls, so we got good. I mean, we were on the phones making sales calls, because I needed to get it done in an hour, because I had other things I needed to do in getting that through. Recognize that you had to go after the big players early on. I mean, you had to just go get some big retailers involved in the business. And from day one, we were calling the big retailers. One of the biggest in that industry, in the baby industry, was Babies R Us, okay? And I started calling Babies R Us from day one. And I guarantee, this is videoed, huh? Maybe I shouldn't say her name, because maybe she'll watch that. Anyways, intimidating buyer at Babies R Us that just scared the crud out of me. I'd call her, if she ever answered her phone, I mean, I got turned off real quick, shut down, and I kept just persisting, doing this over and over. Well, over the course of a couple years, it's about 2 years, we started having some major success in one retailer that was somewhat of a threat to them, and they were selling just incredible numbers. And so I finally convinced her that I wanted that I could come out and show her the numbers we were doing at that other retailer, and she would be amazed. So we put together this incredible presentation that had our numbers rolled out into her store count so that she could see her total revenue, and sat down in her office. And I remember just sitting there, and the whole time, and I still to this day, I don't think she ever liked me. But she's giving me the cold shoulder, acting like, no way. And she says, there's no way you're doing these type of numbers. And I said, well, we haven't fabricated anything. This is it. She's like, okay, well, the way she ends it, because again, there was never any love from her. She's like, we'll consider it. I have to make a decision in 2 weeks. I'll let you know. So we leave. We really don't know what the opportunity is, but we had done everything we possibly could. We had worked. Again, these things take time to evolve. They don't happen overnight. We had worked for some time to make this happen. I'll never forget where I was. I remember the parking lot that I was standing in when I got a call from one of the other sales individuals that went on that trip with me. And I remember saying, hey, you okay? Can you talk for a second? And I said, yeah, I can talk for a second. She said, I've got some information on Babies R Us. And I kind of paused, took a deep breath, because I'm not, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not sure I can take another year of pursuing this. And she said, well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. And I said, okay, the good news, she said, we're in. Okay, and of course, you can clap if you want. We're in. All right, so we're in. So we're in. I won't have you clap for the bad news. The bad news is she said, and you got to remember this lady's mean, okay? She said if you were lying about those numbers and she ends up with any extra inventory, she's going to shove all of them up your, it starts with an A. Now, that didn't sound too pleasant to me, okay? Bottom line is, I never got anything shoved up my, and the rest was history. That account, so taking that risk, going out there, gambling, beating down doors, fighting for it, setting the objective, ended up being a $9 million account in the long run. So you look at what how persistent pays off, and not being willing to back down and continuing on. I need to speed up my pace just a little bit here. Key takeaway from setting the objective: we measured everything. Sales goals were measured to the T. They were daily, they were monthly, they were annual. We fought to obtain them. We went to the extreme. One particular month, we weren't there. Last day of the month, everybody in the company was on the phone being a salesperson. Everybody made sales calls, and they all loved doing it. Not really. But we rewarded. We had fun doing it. Everybody was engaged in the same pursuit. And that's the beauty that happens when you take and empower your employees. Let's move to the, when you take and say you're part of the team, and you involve them in the process, and you involve them in the goals, and you all understand what the goals are, amazing things happen. So the lesson: set the objectives, fire up the team. We could spend a whole other time talking about reward systems. That's a whole different subject, and an awesome subject. Fire up the team and work with crazy tenacity. Let's do this quick video. It's only 30 seconds, and then we'll. This is one that give you a little bit of a feel for the product line. We're going to talk about building a product line. There. Doesn't that just make you want to have a baby? Get married first, okay? Let's do I'm gonna have to move. I'm gonna have to move quick, you guys. I apologize. We started out, with one simple product, and we've recognized the opportunity that we had to take the relationships that we were establishing with those retailers. So here we have a great opportunity because we have something they don't have, an innovation, a unique utility. So we go out and our first push is we push that into every retailer we possibly can that will say yes. We're just pushing. We looked at it and said, boy, phase 2 of growth, what we really need is to now take and leverage those relationships. So we already know the buyers, they know us, they have confidence in the way we manage our business. If we can sell them one product, why not sell them 20, 30, 100, right? And so we looked at how we leverage those relationships. One of the coolest things that ever happened, and that's why I love Logan, I love Utah State, absolutely love it, is talk about diamonds in the rough. I mean, we're in Logan, Utah, and some of our biggest competitors who are chasing us down want to be in Modern Baby. That's what we were, and we were the front runners in Modern Baby. They've got New York design teams. They're based down in New York. We're talking, LA, San Francisco, and last time I checked, Logan wasn't in the design capital realm. But we start leveraging talent. We're pulling in interior designers, graphic designers, and we're competing. I mean, we're taking just the top-notch people that live in this valley that are so talented and putting them head-to-head with what's considered the best, and we're winning the battle. So we're finding these diamonds in the rough and making this work for us. I think it's important to talk just real quickly as we talk about product lines. We developed a process that I just felt like made all the difference in product development for us as a company. We started to recognize that we could conceive, no pun intended, products to a certain. I promise I didn't plan these jokes. They're just coming. Okay. I'll regret them later. But anyways, we would get them to a certain point, and develop them to a certain point, and then all of a sudden, we would take them and throw them into the mixer, what we called our mom forum. This mom forum, we had gone out, we would find different consumers, individuals that we valued their input, and we'd change that from time to time. But we'd take our concepts, and then we'd have this mom forum vetted out. So, whether it was patterns, colors, products, they would vote through our surveys. And so at the end of the day, we weren't left guessing what the consumer was going to buy. We knew. And we could go into a retail appointment, and we could tell the retailer, this is what's going to sell for you. And the other thing that really made all the difference was that retail buyer engagement. We would get 70 to 80% there, but they would see the product probably about 50 to 60% because we needed their input. We needed them to tell us, hey, I'd maybe modify this, I'd change that, or what about this price point, or what about your packaging? That's problematic for us. And what we found, and it's not this isn't rocket science, but what people create or help create, they're more likely to buy. And so those buyers got involved in the process, and as a part of being involved, they were likely to buy that, which led to 70 to 80% of our product line was carried by our retail partners, which is a good number. We did just great there. The other thing, and I'll wrap this section up, but as an entrepreneur, you have to live in your space. I couldn't sit back and just sit in the office and send my salespeople out to go meet with the sales team. I couldn't just sit and not walk retail. Some of the most important things I did were spending my time in the space, in the retail environment, and there were very few key, although I wasn't the sales guy, I considered myself part of the sales team, very few key appointments that I didn't go to because my way of enhancing that relationship was me being there, being able to make calls on the spot, being able to make changes to product, and becoming an expert. So find your niche, develop the process, become the best. Maybe we can roll these two together so I leave time for you guys for some Q&A. To me, I can tell you I'm a brand guy. I love brands. I've always loved studying what draws and brings the emotion to a brand. I think all of us, if we could spend time, I'd go through the room and ask each one of you, what brand do you like? Why do you like it? What emotion does it draw? And we all have experiences with that. We wanted to be more than just a product. We wanted to be a brand. And so it became important for us from all angles, from our employees to our retailers to our consumer, that we literally lived and breathed what the J.J. Cole brand was. When we went into retail appointments, it was all about the perception. I mean, when we went in spending some money to look polished, to look sharp. Our sales presentations, you know, they weren't on paper like this, in black and white printouts. I mean, we were designed, we were looking sharp. Actually, in the very beginning when we started showing product, I don't know who came up with this idea. Actually, I look back and I'm like, this was so corny. But we had a silver briefcase, a stainless steel briefcase that all the secrets were kept in. And when we went in to an appointment, we got to where our buyers were like, "Oh, cool, you brought the silver briefcase, or you brought the stainless briefcase," because they knew it meant it was product time and it was idea time. And actually, years later, when we abandoned that, we'd still have buyers that were still, you know, in the business. It'd be like, "I really miss the briefcase." So we made ourselves unique. We stood out. The other thing, when it came to trade shows, I looked at that as it's our house. Website, it's our house. We walk into their offices all the time. They come to our house. We need to be polished. We need to be sharp. We would spend money and we would spend time. I would like to think over the years that for our size of company, we were always one of the best, if not the best, booths at the trade show, because we felt like at the end, we needed to stand out. You needed to see that we paid particular attention to the details of our business. And, I really look at that, and I felt like at the time with the strategy that would lead to a higher multiple in the end, because, and I'll refer to that in the exit, leaving a company, because we were more than just product. We were a brand with value. And I remember early on too, leaving a trade show, or we're setting up at a trade show, and it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the other company's belling out, they're leaving, and they looked at us and they're like, "You guys, what are you doing?" And I think we ended up being there till 1 a.m, but we did more. We put in more effort. We were willing to grind it out. We wanted everybody that interacted with us to have a 5-star experience. I mean, from the customer service side to the way we interacted with the retail buyer. I mean, to the consumer, to our employees. I mean, you had to have a 5-star experience in interacting with us. I love this statement by the founder of Land's End. He says, "Worry about being better. Bigger will take care of itself. Think one customer at a time, and take care of each one the best you can." And business is fun when you worry about those kind of things. And there's a lot of varying opinions, but to me, it's fun when you worry about the details. Okay. The key to that experience, I want to share this one last quote with you because I think it's absolutely so key. The key to that experience is at the end of the day, whether you're working with a retail buyer, working with a direct consumer, they have a choice, don't they? I mean, they get to choose who they do business with. And they're the most powerful person that you'll deal with is those who make the decisions on how they choose to spend their money. And I love Sam Walton's quote, "There's one boss, the customer, And he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money somewhere else. So build something with money, emotion and passion, a brand that speaks. And last, develop a culture. Of all the things that I valued, and I think the brand and the culture are absolutely connected. If your brand's strong, it will permeate into your culture. I'd like to think that at the end, we didn't have to direct a lot of decision making. We were able to empower our employees because it was done the J.J. Cole way. People understood what the J.J. Cole way was, and so they were able to make decisions independent of us because they knew where the brand stood. Recognizing how crucial the team is and taking that journey together. What an experience. You know, I look back and we had a great time. We were full of goals. I mean, we had monthly goals, and again, some of them were so simple. We won't spend enough time talking about those, but they were powerful. Everybody worked. You know, when you're keeping score, you have goals, and then you reward off of the goals, people will just break their back to get there. We were spontaneous. I mean, I did have some video, and I wouldn't dare share it here. I mean, we won the Utah 100 fastest growing company a couple times, but one time coming back, and I was notorious. I admit it. I'm terrible for offering people money for doing things they probably shouldn't. But we convinced one of our executives to jump in Manaway, and he was and he was in a suit at the time, so he ended up in nothing more than, and I have no idea how he did it, but he somehow tied his dress shirt around his waist to cover everything he needed to, and took a plunge for some money. Anyways, but there was too many of those, maybe disruptive at time. But recognizing how crucial it is to building each other, the skills, the attributes, that's what makes it fun. You know, at the end of the day, I really felt this way. The most important thing was that I needed to be a fan of you. And you were going to, at some point, you might make a choice to go somewhere else. But if I had given you something that made you just a little bit better in life, maybe a little bit better for your next job, maybe a little bit better in your relationships with your family, I had succeeded. And we had succeeded as a company because we had made the world just a little bit of a better place. And so invest, be a fan, care about your employees. Last but not least, empower everyone, and you'll never have to compel anyone. We worked hard, and I can't tell you how many nights we shipped till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning to meet our commitments. Again, if you have a commitment, you take care of it. You don't let it sit. You do whatever you have to. It's whatever it takes mentality. I never once had to compel anybody to be there. Everybody would make the choice to be there because they were a part of something they believed in. You know, they were after a goal, a pursuit that they believed in. So if you want to build something greater than just product and revenue, build an experience that enhances and enriches life. Thank you. I appreciate your I've got my contact information up there. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you have any questions or you want me to expound on something a little bit deeper. But we ought to get after some questions. Jacqueline.
So we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. So if you guys have any for them.
Yeah, I'll do that. Anybody brave enough to? Yeah.
So, I mean, we always kind of think we want to be passionate about what we're going into. Were you passionate about the baby industry when you first got into it, or is that something you had to learn? Or are there other, like, have you thought about getting into other business ventures that you were naturally passionate about?
Yeah, I think so his question was being passionate about what you're getting into, and was I naturally passionate about babies? It's a great question. Was I naturally passionate about that? Here's the best way for me to answer that. What I found and have found over time is that I'm passionate about certain principles of business, and there's certain things that I just enjoy doing. I enjoy building brands. I enjoy building the perception. I enjoy building the emotion or the strategy behind the brand. I enjoy the retail strategy. Now, could I apply that to just anything? Probably not. But what I found is, at that stage of my life, I wasn't having babies. My wife was having babies. And, really, we were in that realm and we were doing something that we couldn't find as parents, and that was cool products that matched us and our style and taste. And so it was a good fit for that time of life. But I have to admit, I would look all the time at some of the older gentlemen in that business, and I would think to myself, not when I'm that age. At that point, this is good for me right now. This is a great realm, but maybe not then, too. So I think what you're going to find out in your careers is that your passion will develop for certain interests, too. And that can be applied to a lot of different products and industries. Great question. Others? Oh, you're good.
My thoughts are, how do you bring a team together when you don't have much to promise them yet? You're just starting out. You have investors first off.
Yeah, it's a great question. So his question was, how do you bring a team together when you don't have much to offer them? And that's whether it's investors, et cetera. Yeah, investors help. You can go get outside money and use that money to fund, some of your payroll to get you there. Obviously, plenty of people offer equity as a little bit of a lure to get you into the business. But point blank, I think one of the greatest, again, attributes of an entrepreneur is your ability to sell others, and that they believe in you and where you're going, and that they also believe in themselves and their willingness to get behind it. One of the interesting things to make note of, two of my key players in the business, and I would have made mention of this if I would have had time in the speech, but now I have time. They called me. Brody Holbrook called me out of the blue. What are you up to? And actually, by the end of the phone call, he was offering to move to Logan and come work for me. And I remember at the time hanging up and thinking, I didn't even offer him a job. But he called. He's interested. He offered. Eric Elison was home. I knew him well. He was home on Christmas break. He was at Wharton getting an MBA, and he calls me and says, "Hey, can we get together? I'd love to learn more about your business." And so some of this is we've got to go. You guys have got to go out. If you're interested in something, don't wait for him to call you. You need to go call and express interest and let people know you're interested in it. Okay. Other questions?
So
Aaron.
J.J. Cole had like a very strong brand. Did that kind of develop organically, or did you sit down and say, this is where we're going to go?
Organic would be a good answer just based on the skill set I had at age 24. I thought I was well equipped, but I found out real quick that I had a lot to learn. So it developed over time, but I think the interest level in developing into a brand was there from the very beginning. So I saw the product and I recognized the product was a bridge to getting us into something, but then I never really for a second thought this is just a one product deal. This isn't just a flagship and I'm done. This is an entry way, and this because it's unique and innovative, it's an easier way to open doors for the retailer. Yeah.
Why did you start out with sales through phone calls? What led you to do that as compared to other forms of sales? Obviously, you started by contacting retailers too, but did you consider any other forms of sales at the beginning?
Initially, so most of the phone calls were us out just trying to open some doors. The smaller stores, we were picking them up a lot through trade shows. So we were doing trade show events, and we'd collect some of that way. We would then also get buying lists retailer lists, and we were just cold calling off that and doing some mail in conjunction with that. I mean, you got to realize too, this was 18 years ago too. So some of the methods we were using, and then we were calling the large retailer. But when it came down to it, if we could get into a face-to-face with a large retailer, that's the reason we were calling. I mean, we weren't trying to do business with them over the phone. We were going to get in front of them because we felt like we get in front of you, that's when we get business done.
So were you calling just people at the beginning trying to sell the product, or were you only calling
All retailers, yeah. Everybody from a small boutique specialty store up to a large retailer. Yeah, we're hitting everybody. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh boy, that's locked in that stainless steel case. I used to not share this with anybody, so you guys, this is good stuff. It actually did come out of not a forum, but anyways, we sat down and had some outside people, some designers from Salt Lake, some creative people from Salt Lake, and everybody had to submit a name to be vetted out for a name for the company. And on my way down to the meeting, I didn't have a name. And so I'm driving along and I'm like, gosh, I got to come up with a name. I can't be the guy that shows up who doesn't have something to submit. So I'm going back in my mind, and my initials are JJ, Jeremy John, and my wife is Nicole. And I didn't come up with this, but before we had kids, I had a little nephew who would, when he'd run in and see us, he'd call me JJ and her Cole, and he said JJ Cole one time, and somebody made a comment like, "Oh, that's a great sounding brand. That sounds really, really good." So I was like, and in my mind, I wanted a brand that wasn't Baby Associated. I wanted something that was just a good, solid brand name. So I went down. Nobody knew who submitted the names or those brand names, the potential brand names that ended up winning out. So I put 10 of them in the ballot box, but anybody else? Yeah.
How do you build culture? Where do you start?
That's such a good question. I think the leadership, you've just got to look at things and say, what's important to me? Discipline, fun. What's the criteria that you want around your business? And then you start implementing those things. You reinforce those things. I mean, this is a real behavior game, right? I mean, you have to look at that and say, what is it I want? How do I build that? And for me, I wanted it to be intense. I mean, we were intense. We make no mistake about it. When it came to goals, we didn't mess around. I mean, from the top, there was really no leeway to hit the goal. You went after it. But we had fun. And in the course of the day, with the intensity level, and yet us throwing in it was just always crazy there too. There was something crazy and we were having fun too. And so those things just start to develop over time. It's a good question. We good? Hey, thank you.